11 years ago, I almost died. I almost wasn't here. That's difficult news for anyone to hear or feel, and I'm no exception. Before that moment in time, I had established my life on a foundation of being unstoppable. The proud daughter of immigrants, self-identified Latina, I had been blessed with the opportunity to travel the world. I had been in Brazil, Ethiopia, China, Canada, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, El Salvador, Ireland, and Spain. Working, consulting, lecturing. I graduated from Cornell University, and I landed with opportunities in human resources for Fortune 100 companies. I directed communications and digital for a civil rights organization. I then went and worked for public relations firms. I was a vice president, senior vice president, and executive vice president. I traveled the world. I consulted with different experts in business and communications. And I was having the time of my life, living my best life. But all that almost ended in 2014. I was going for what I thought was a routine visit with my doctor when my OBGYN told my husband that there was the risk that I would lose my life and that we'd lose the life of our 11-year-old son, Logan. What happened to me happens to an infinitesimal number of women. It's extremely rare, but on that day it happened to me. I was rushed to the hospital. They induced my child. He was born, this puff of blonde hair that fit in my husband's hand. He stayed in the hospital for a while. I did too. First with him, and then without him. The doctors were completely flummoxed. They didn't know what was going on. And I remember for me, it was one of the scariest moments in my life. I lived in this conversation of death. I didn't know if I was going to be here or not. And I was so afraid. I was afraid I wouldn't be here. My son. I didn't know if when he woke up, his mom would still be there. It was one of the scariest times in my life. There were challenges that we went through, and I was told either I was going to need to have a full-time nurse living with us, or I would need to be with family. And so we ended up moving from the Bay Area to Miami to be with my family. My father taught me to walk again. It started out very small, just a few steps on the beach. For those of you that know Miami, it was beautiful to be on the beach and see the sunrise over the ocean. But all I could handle in that moment in time were just a few steps. But gradually, and with him and my family's help, those few steps became a few blocks. And I started regaining my abilities to walk. At the time, too, my mother helped to raise my son, my little one, watching me with love, not realizing that anything was wrong with his mama. And I was really lucky, I was really blessed, because slowly but surely, I was able to get my facilities back. I was able to get my mind back. I was able to get my body back. And I went and I saw the doctor about a week ago, so all these years later, 11 years later. I had been sick, I had this terrible cold I couldn't get over, and the doctor was looking at my chart and he goes to me, "You're really lucky that your body and your mind healed." And you know what? I was lucky. I am lucky. I am so lucky to be standing here today in front of you, because I had almost forgotten my impossible promise for the world, which is to be unstoppable. I was living in that conversation of fear and of dying, and I forgot that I had the power to choose to be unstoppable again. And so I fought to remember who I was and to own my power again and to be unstoppable. And in that time, while my body and my brain was recuperating, I then, had my first child, and I never knew if I was going to have kids or not, biological or otherwise. But once I had Logan, I said, you know what? I want a second child. And the doctor said to me, absolutely not. You have a second child. You will die this time. And so the generalist told me I couldn't. So I looked and I talked to specialists, and I found a high-risk OBGYN doctor that worked with me and helped me bring my wonderful 9-year-old Aiden into this world. Because I chose to be unstoppable. I chose to continue to persevere even though the world said no and it appeared like I couldn't. And so that's my promise to this world, is for all of us to be unstoppable in the face of everything. My 9-year-old, back in the day, has grown into this extraordinary young boy that I could have never had I accepted the limitations that were imposed at that point in time. So my impossible promise for the world is for all of us to be unstoppable, and to remember that we shouldn't let these limitations stand in the way. You can see there are two extraordinary blessings, Logan and Ada, who are here as a result of having that desire to continue to persevere and to not let fear, to not let extraneous circumstances stand in the way of future impossibilities. So you might be saying, great, Kety, that's your story, fascinating story, thank goodness you're here. What does that mean for me? What it means for you is you can choose to be unstoppable too. So how? Be unstoppable how? Number one, remember what an amazing miracle you are. We are, each and every one of us, extraordinary miracles. The chances of us being born are 1 in 40 trillion. It's insane. But here we are. We're here, we're alive, we have life. And we get to choose what we're going to do with our life in this world and be unstoppable, despite any fear. And that's the second one. Not let fear stand in the way. Face that fear and rise. When I was in that conversation about dying, there were moments that I didn't see a future. It was a scary place to be in because fear was dominating me. But the thing is, with fear, we worry so much about things that many times don't even happen. There's actually something that Mark Twain once said about how he worried consistently, and most of those worries never came to be. No, I'm not telling you that we shouldn't worry. I know, especially in this day and age, there are some crazy things that are happening, and there are reasons for concern. However, that should not stand in the way of us being unstoppable. We can continue and persevere and try and create a better world. And so that's the third step of what you can do, precisely that, take that next right step. Sometimes you might not know what the next step is. I love the quote from Martin Luther King, where he says that we should take that next step, right? We don't have to have it all figured out. Sometimes you can't see the staircase, you don't know the path, you know there's many steps to take. But what you can do is take that next step that's in front of you and have trust and faith that you'll be able to figure it out and see what's next. And again, in my story, I took those steps and I was able to have these two extraordinary children in this world. And it helped to remind me that we can be unstoppable in the face of anything. And so what I would ask you to remember, if you don't remember anything else from my talk today, is don't let fear stand in the way. Don't let obstacles stand in the way. When you get down, get back up. Keep going. Continue to believe in yourself. Onward. Let your light shine.